I would like to open the Planning and Development Committee meeting for Tuesday, February 17th of 2026. Can I please have a roll call?
Councilor Lautensack.
Here.
Councilor Thompson.
Here.
Councilor Fitzgibbons.
Here.
At this time, I would like to ask for a motion to approve the minutes from February 2nd of 2026 committee meeting. Councilor Fitzgibbons, Councilor Thompson. Can I have a roll call?
Councilor Lautensack.
Yes.
Councilor Thompson.
Yes.
Councilor Fitzgibbons.
Yes.
I see no old business to attend to at this time. Anyone? New business. We have the authorization. The Zoning and Planning Office requests the Common Council authorize the election of the Planning Board for their review and approval of Verizon Wireless Communications Facility modification at 300 East Albany Street. Hello.
Good evening, Chair, Council. I've been asked to address this matter. I represent not only the city of Oswego in this realm, but also the Planning Board, the Zoning Board, and this action is derived from Chapter 274 of the City Code that authorizes the City Council to make decisions with respect to wireless communication towers, cell towers. That's a little better then, I'm guessing. Okay. So I've been asked to make this presentation on behalf of the Mr. McGann and the zoning office. This is an action that's derived from Chapter 274 of our code dealing with wireless communication facilities, in this case a cell tower that was erected a couple of years ago at the Oswego Speedway facilities. The action that's being proposed by the company is what's called a co-location. So another tenant or cell provider wants to attach its equipment to this already erected structure to provide service to their customers. Part of the policies and goals of Chapter 274 is to promote and encourage, whenever possible, the sharing or co-location of wireless communication facilities among service providers. So that's a stated policy. And then the action tonight that's being sought is to delegate your authority to the planning board to handle this fairly routine process by which one company is looking to co-locate on an existing tower. And that authority and specific powers derived under Section 274.5, which says that the city may, at its discretion, delegate or designate other official agencies of the city to accept, review, analyze, evaluate, and make recommendations to the city council with respect to the granting or not granting, certifying or not recertifying, or revoking special permits for wireless communications facilities. So that's the nature of the action tonight. I'm happy to answer any questions, but if you accept what has been prepared, much like use of public space, or well, a zone change, because you have handled that, where you refer something back to the planning board, they make recommendations and refer it back to this council for ultimate determination. In this case, what is being proposed is that you delegate the authority to handle the review and approval process for the co-location to the planning board. So not to the company or anyone else, but specifically to the planning board. So that's the nature of the authorization being requested tonight. I'm happy to field any questions. And I believe a representative of the company is here as well that can answer some technical questions if there are any.
So will this come back to the council for a final approval?
The way that the resolution is stated at the moment, it does not, but if the council wishes it to come back for a final review and approval, that's certainly within your authority to delegate and then to retain. Right now, the proposal is instead of this body taking up the nuts and bolts of the co-location, you're deferring it to the planning board that, frankly has some experience in this type of work as far as approving projects and plans, and then either you give them the authority to make that final determination, or refer it back to this council for a final determination with their recommendation.
Will this be open up for public discussion?
Absolutely. What would happen, again, much like a zone change, if you refer it to the planning board, it'll be put on their agenda, likely for the first week of March. I believe that's the 2nd or 3rd of March, the first Tuesday. And it would likely be taken up at that point in time. It's subject to public notice. It's a public meeting. We always entertain comments from the public, particularly the neighbors, with any concerns. Keep in mind, this is an already established cell tower, so it's been through that process once. And this would just be to co-locate specific transmitter, receptor equipment on that existing tower.
You stated what I was going to ask to be affirmed. It doesn't change any aesthetics, really. It's just adding additional equipment onto the existing tower. Maybe you could speak to that.
Yeah, let's be clear on that. I mean, it will change the aesthetic somewhat from my knowledge. So you'll see a little bit of a larger, or an extra box up on the tower, but the representative from the company, come on, step there.
I'm actually not from the company, but Steve Fantuzzo, Nixon Peabody, we're attorneys for Verizon. I'm a colleague of Bob Bergdorf, who submitted the cover letter and exhibits. So as a gentleman stated, it's a co-location. The tower owner has AT&T on there, and Verizon proposes to just put their antenna array essentially right underneath the existing AT&T array, with a very small sort of fenced-in leased space, similar to what AT&T has, which would house the equipment cabinets. I think there's just 2. There's 1 equipment cabinet, 1 battery cabinet, and then a diesel generator for backup. So all sort of within the compound. The only real noticeable change would just be that there's more antennas at the top, but there's no, no increase in the height or anything like that. So it's just, as you stated, just a simple co-location, minimal.
So the aesthetics don't significantly change.
They don't, no, it'll just be another, sort of 3 arrays underneath.
That answers my question. I have a question for Kevin. Does the enhanced value that we make to this antenna become the subject of building permits and property assessment on this property?
I do believe that there will be a permit. The assessor is nodding his head affirmatively that it does increase the value and thereby the assessed value and potential for increased taxes.
You would assume that because it would probably enhance the rent revenue.
Sure.
You probably pay rent. And so this is an enhanced revenue for the tower owner. So the capital improvement you bring to that adds value, and value is what we tax on.
For certain.
Yep, so we'd like to make sure we get that. No offense.
Good.
I'd like to suggest that we send it to the planning board, but we maintain the final approval with the council, just in case something comes up. We just got documentation on this late this afternoon, so I'd like some time to review it. I think we should move it forward, but I think final approval with the council would be good.
Councilor Gibbons.
That doesn't stop the process of moving forward, I wouldn't think.
What do the dates look like then?
So after tonight's committee meeting, it goes to the full council next week for a vote on the resolution. We'll have to modify the resolution if it is the intention of this committee and then the full body to retain final decision-making jurisdiction. But what will occur, and I'm going to defer to Jeff McGann in a moment here, but I believe it would be teed up for the March 2nd meeting.
After next week's council meeting, we would then go to planning board the first Tuesday in March, and then it would return back to council if we go that route for the second 2 weeks in March. We did 3rd and 4th week of March back with you folks.
Does that meet your design timeline?
Yeah.
Yeah, then I think that's fine. Yeah.
So it'd be essentially, it sounds like 3 council meetings from now?
one committee, one council meeting, one planning, and then a final bow on it at a council meeting, I think.
So it'd be, final decision, if I'm reading the calendar right, would be March 24th. If this council retains jurisdiction. And again, I mean, theoretically, after March 2nd, or rather March 3rd, the Tuesday, you could review it, take it off the council floor and approve it on the 9th. But if you wanted a committee meeting in between to reflect on what the planning board did, we can make it for the 24th, but that's,
We can make that decision.
Yeah.
You know, it might be well aired out at that point. We could probably consider the 9th, possibly. Yeah, move it along.
so best case scenario, the 9th, worst case scenario, the 24th for your client.
Thank you.
Great, thank you.
Can I have a motion to move this forward with the modification? Counselor Thompson? Counselor Fitzgibbons?
Counselor Lautensack?
Yes.
Counselor Thompson?
Yes.
Counselor Fitzgibbons?
Yes.
Do we have any other business to attend to at this time? I would like to make a motion to close the Planning and Development Committee meeting. Counselor Thompson?
Yeah,
Counselor Fitzgibbons?
okay.
Counselor Lautensack?
Yes.
Need a bigger committee.
Yes.
Counselor Fitzgibbons?
Yes.
I'd now like to open the Physical Services Committee
Thank you.
for February 17th, 2026. Could I have a roll call, please?
Counselor Meyer?
Yes, here.
Counselor Plunkett?
Here.
Counselor Ashline?
Here.
Counselor Kennedy?
Here.
I'd like a motion to approve the minutes of the February 2nd, 2026 committee meeting. Counselor Plunkett, Counselor Kennedy.
Counselor Meyer?
Yes.
Counselor Plunkett?
Yes.
Counselor Ashline?
Yes.
Counselor Kennedy?
Yes.
I see no old business. We'll go right to the new business. Item 1, the Zoning and Planning Office has received a request for use of public space from Anthony Pauldine, owner of a commercial property located at 39 East Oneida Street, to install 11 diagonal parking spaces fronting East Oneida Street between the sidewalk and the curb. Mr. McGann.
Good evening. The mayor, myself, Jonathan Ashline, John Fitzgibbons met over there a few weeks ago at the synagogue, and today met over there with Bill Meyer to show them what is being proposed, which is 11 diagonal parking spots in front of the synagogue in what is public space now between the curb and the sidewalk, with a proposed setback of the sidewalk of about 3 to 3.5 feet, so that those diagonal parking spots don't stick out into the road. The reason for this is Anthony Pauldine bought this through the auction, the city auction, and is proposing doing market rate apartments in there, but needs off-street parking to meet the requirements. And this is really the best avenue to get those parking spots. The moving the sidewalk back and the creating of those parking spots would be on the contractor, the owner, Tony Pauldine, to do that work. And I think, at least for Counselor Fitzgibbons and Counselor Ashline, who got to go inside the building and see the condition of the building, I think they understand that we're at a crucial point with this building. It's been on the auction a couple of times, and we struggled with the parking the last time. We're kind of at a point where this is kind of do or die to be able to do something with this building, or sadly, eventually come back to us. And if the city gets it back, I mean, ultimately, probably what you're looking at is the demo of the building. So you're probably looking at $200,000 in demo fees and taking it off the tax roll, as opposed to making 6 market rate high-end apartments, keeping it on the tax roll, and also keeping the city from swallowing the cost of demoing the building.
Counselor Ashland.
Can you speak to the tree that's out front of it? That tree, I understand, is a mature tree, and I wanted to know if that would be necessitated to be removed.
So the tree to the east,
Almost directly. On the photo you sent us? Yes.
So that drawing with those 11 parking spots does not take down any trees.
Okay.
Counselor, we were talking about it today, the day that you gentlemen were there, it was pretty bitter out.
Yeah.
Today was a little bit nicer. As Counselor Meyer and I stood there looking at it, that tree needs to be assessed because it's in rough shape. But that tree is not, it's not planned to be taken down to create those parking spots. We will be on the west side of that and then stop short of the double arrow sign for the T in the road. So there are no trees affected by the parking spots. But there is a good chance that tree eventually here is gonna have to come down.
Understood.
Anyone else? Yeah. Councilor Kennedy.
Thank you. So, the parking spots themselves, they are, trying to figure out how to word it, like, are they going to be specifically designated for this property? Or is it going to be
Correct.
public? Like, are they going to be,
Correct. No, the whole purpose of this is to create off-street parking to meet the requirements for the rental units in there. It's not gonna be open to the public. It's gonna be specific to those units.
but it's not going to have a separate lot per se, right? Like, the way I looked at the drawing, like, the reason I'm asking is because it's like it's off-street, but it's kind of on the street, so I'm just,
So generally, what we do in these cases, when there's designated parking for that, is signs will go up saying that these spots are designated for that location.
okay, all right. Just, and because I was wondering about, just like snow removal, things like that, like, is it going to be part of, like, Tony Pauline's?
So snow removal will be his responsibility.
His responsibility?
Correct, yes.
Okay, gotcha. All right, thank you.
Correct.
Thank you.
How many apartments is he planning on putting on there? Sorry.
They're in the design process right now. I think what they've come up with is between 6 and 8. I don't think they've been able to narrow it down completely yet, because he's had an architect go through there and start looking at it to come up with designs, but obviously designing those apartments and coming up with final drawings is very expensive. So it's, if he's not gonna get the parking and not gonna be able to do the project, they're not gonna go ahead and spend $50,000 or whatever the amount may be to come up with a drawing. So I think that number is gonna be between 6 and 8.
Go ahead.
Are there supposed to be 2 parking spaces per apartment?
Correct, there is. So you have, it's 2 per unit or 5 spots for every 3. So if they ended up having 6 units, it would be
Right.
10 spots. There's gonna be 11 spots there. If they end up with 8, then when it goes for approval at planning and zoning, they'll have to give them a reduction on a couple of spots, which is commonplace. I mean, the other option that you could do is to take that tree down, go further. That tree very likely is gonna have to come down, and you could add more spots, but we're trying not to do that. We're trying to leave the spots in front of the synagogue. It's very common to have a reduction in parking when you have multifamily units like that, whether it be Riverwalk, Latatro, pretty much any of those projects.
And this doesn't cut into the park at all, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Councilor Thompson.
So I'm looking at the picture that was included in the
Yep.
resolution, and it looks like the parking spots meet right up to the sidewalk, correct? So what is Mr. Pauline's plan for snow removal? I just want to make sure that he's not going to be pushing snow onto the sidewalk and blocking the path.
No, he's gonna have to haul it out of there. It's pretty much gonna have to get taken out of there, because there's room to the east, or to the west, to put some of it, because we stayed quite a ways back from the corner, and the county plows some snow from the parking lot there. But if you go look at that bank, there still is more room, but a lot of it's gonna have to get taken out of there.
And just to clarify, he's aware of that, right?
Correct.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Councilor Fitzgibbons.
I did get an opportunity to go through the building, and it is in a distressed state. So I think a modest accommodation for the parking is probably appropriate. It was built in 1831, first occupied by the First Baptist Church, then occupied by Beth Israel or Temple Israel, I think, as a synagogue. And while we were there, I noticed that stained glass appeared over the transom of the front door, which commemorated the congregation that was at that church. And I asked Tony, because the question of who owns what at this point, if we could seek out some remainder of that congregation to have them have the transom glass there to remember their place in our community and to acknowledge their contribution. I think that we've seen a lot of these legacy buildings lose their purpose, but we don't want to forget who and the resources and the time and the effort that went in to building these parts of our community. So that I was happy to hear that. So I think
Yeah,
this is a
after
good
we-
project.
After we talked about that day, I did propose that to him, if he'd
Yeah.
be willing, and he
You're
said
very willing to that.
absolutely.
But I don't think we can forget that the toil and treasure of the people that created these institutions in our community, as we repurpose them for better purposes, we should remember where they were at the time when they did these things. So,
Any more comments? Could I have a motion, please, to go forward with this resolution? Councilor Plunkett, Councilor Kennedy.
Kennedy's not on this. Oh, I'm sorry,
Roll
Kennedy is.
call, please.
Counselor Meyer?
Yes.
Counselor Plunkett?
Yes.
Counselor Ashline?
Yes.
Counselor Kennedy?
Yes.
Item 2, the Office of Economic Development has received a request for use of public space from HarborFest Director Dan Harrington to host the 2026 Oswego HarborFest from July 23rd, 2026 to July 26th, 2026. Yes, sir.
Hi, my name is Craig Terrell. I'm Vice President of HarborFest, and I'm here to help with any questions you guys might have on our application.
Anyone entertaining any questions?
The only thing we've added this year was we're hoping to possibly use West Park, but we haven't solidified an event for that area yet. That's our only addition from our last few festivals.
Are you still going to do the parade and stuff on Thursday?
Yes, the children's
Okay.
parade is on here. It's the last item on the first day of the festival. On Friday, July 24th, I'm sorry. Yes.
Any more comments, questions? Can I get a resolution to approve? Councilor Kennedy. Councilor Plunkett.
Counselor
Roll
Meyer?
call, please. Yes.
Counselor Plunkett?
Yes.
Counselor Ashline?
Yes.
Counselor Kennedy?
Yes.
Item 3, the Office of Economic Development has received a request from Oswego County Federal Credit Union to organize and host a children's Easter egg hunt on Saturday, March 28, 2026 at Washington Square Park. Is there anyone here would like to comment on that? Well, I did talk to the lady at the Federal Credit Union, and she was said that someone would be here, but I guess not. I know they've done it in the past, and I know we deferred on any waivers that they wanted. So could I have a motion to approve? Councilor Ashline, Councilor Kennedy, roll call, please.
Counselor Meyer?
Yes.
Counselor Plunkett?
Yes.
Counselor Ashline?
Yes.
Counselor Kennedy?
Yes.
Item 4, the Office of Economic Development has received a request for use of public space from the Garrett Dunsmore Memorial Foundation to host the GDMF 3x3 basketball tournament at Brightbeck Park on Sunday, June 7th, 2026, from 8 to 7. I did speak with Brian Warner this morning to get some information on that. He said the setup would take place around 7 a.m. The games start approximately at 8:30 a.m. They do have a generator for sound system, and they will be putting up some small portable pop-ups. There are approximately 40 teams that they expect to sign up, 500 people, not all there at the same time, obviously. Games will run from 8:30 to between 7 and 8 at night. And if it does rain, it will be moved to the YMCA. So, is there any, and I know they've done this for, I think this is the 5th year. It's a great thing, and it's a great memorial for Garrett. Any more questions, comments? Chance?
You
Dr.
said-
Kennedy. Sorry.
No, you're fine. You said it goes to what time? You said 7 or 8?
Between 7 and 8, yeah.
Oh, because it says it ends at 7, so I just wanted to make sure that that
Well,
was.
yeah, I guess they were doing the 7 and 8 just in case, you know, they ran over a little bit with some of the
Okay.
games.
Gotcha. Okay.
Any more questions, comments? Could I have a motion to approve, please? Counselor Plunkett, Counselor Ashline. Roll call, please.
Counselor Meyer,
Yes.
Counselor Plunkett,
Yes.
Counselor Ashline,
Yes.
Counselor Kennedy.
Yes.
Item 5, Mayor Robert Cordino has received a request from Amy Miller on behalf of the Oswego YMCA for use of the Chrysophylle Ice Rink to host their YMCA Summer Camp program from June 29, 2026 to August 21st, 2026 from 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. Yes, ladies, go right ahead.
Hi, we're here from the Oswego YMCA. We have a longstanding summer camp at Chrysophylle Rink. We've been doing that for quite some time. We inhabit it from June 21st to August 28th. It's from 6 a.m. in the morning to 6 a.m. at night. We've been there for quite some time, so we're asking for a request to use it again this year.
Any questions, comments?
Tell us a little bit about the programs.
Well, the program right now, we are up to over almost 100 children that we serve every year, and some years more than others, depending on the participation, because we have competition through camps, but it's for all of our underserved youth within the city limits. And we get quite a few children out there, out at the rink. We do field trips, we have themes, most camps do throughout the summer, keeps the kids busy, out of trouble. We get to use the pool, which is one of their favorite things that they like to do, and it's something that our YMCA is very proud of, that we do every year.
Great.
Any more questions, comments? Motion to approve, please? Oh, I'm sorry, go right
I
ahead.
just had a question. I know you paid $1,200. Do we know what the actual cost is incurred by us for the use of that building? Do we break even is what I'm asking.
I don't know.
We didn't hear the
I
question.
can't hear the question.
Oh, they pay a fee, but I didn't know if it covered the cost of us breaking even on the space. Does anyone know?
I don't know if that's
don't
in the
know.
resolution.
Okay.
Is it?
No, I don't think it is.
Yeah.
Okay. You guys probably don't. All right. Sorry.
The mayor might.
Do you know?
Mayor?
Sorry.
The cost to the city is negligible because during the summer, the ice skating rink is unused.
Yeah.
So really, there isn't any huge cost. We don't have any personnel there to supervise. They have their own
Okay.
people. I guess the only cost, you might say, would be electricity for the lights, because you do have lights. But $1,200 for the 6-week course was what we charged last year, so we
Okay.
went with the same price.
Okay.
Hopefully, that answers your question.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any more questions, comments? Motion to approve? Counselor Kennedy, Counselor Ashline. Roll call, please.
Counselor Meyer,
Yes.
Counselor Plunkett,
Yes.
Counselor Ashline,
Yes.
Counselor Kennedy.
Yes.
Anyone got anything further? Thank you, ladies.
Thank you.
At this time, I would like a motion to adjourn. Counselor Ashline, Counselor Plunkett. Roll call, please.
Counselor Meyer,
Yes.
Counselor Plunkett,
Yes.
Counselor Ashline,
Yes.
Counselor Kennedy.
Yes.
At this time, I'd like to call to order the Administrative Services Committee. Clerk, please call the roll.
Counselor Plunkett,
Here.
Counselor Meyer,
Here.
Counselor Fitzgibbons.
Here.
Counselor Lautensack,
Here.
Counselor Ashline.
Here.
Could I get a motion to approve the minutes of the January 20th, 26th committee meeting, please? Counselor Meyer, Counselor Lautensack.
Counselor Plunkett,
Yes.
Counselor Meyer,
Yes.
Counselor Fitzgibbons.
Here. Yes.
Counselor Lautensack,
Yes.
Counselor Ashline.
Yes.
Is there any old business? Seeing none, we'll move on to new business. Item 1 under authorization
The engineering office requests authorization for the mayor to sign amendment number 5 in the amount of $114,500 with CNS Companies for additional construction administrative services for the beautification and safety improvement Route 48 corridor project. Hi, Wes.
Hi, Council. My name's Wes. Don't think I have a pleasure to meet you guys. I've always been busy or away. My name's Wes Morris. I'm the engineering technician for the City of Oswego. Briefly, I'll introduce some people that are with me. We have interim city engineer, Mr. John Trumbull, over there. If you want to raise your hand. I have 2 individuals with the CNS Consulting Services with us. We have Mr. Chuck Stanton and Mr. Jeff Reyna. Just to put a little history on the 2 items that are up for discussion. We got the $114,500 that CNS is requesting to extend time. And then also, it's going to jump around a little. Item number 2, there's a change order for Reifenberg. That got changed actually this morning. That price is a lot less than the original amount. We can talk to that later if you want, but for a little history of the project started with a full-depth road reconstruction in a limited area of the road, along with a brand new water main, basically from Cooper Electric all the way to Utica Street. During the time of the water main installation, we were able to basically look at how the base of the road was, and that kind of made us expand the full-depth road reconstruction of the project. So a lot of the changes of the project are due to what was found once we start digging the road. Also, there's a smidgen of the water main that got extended, roughly 600 to 700 feet. We had to add to it based off of how we found buildings were serviced. So that's just a little history on how the project basically started from one amount to kind of expand into a little bit more than what intended. Any questions on your guys' half?
Councilor Thompson?
So, over the past couple of years, I've seen many change orders come through. And it always seems to be after the work is done, then we get it to approve for payment. Does it ever come to council? So obviously, once digging started, we discovered our base was not adequate. Should it have come to council at that time to say, hey, we need to expand the project?
Yes, we are currently on change order number 7. Right along the previous council had the opportunity, and they accepted previous change orders related to these items.
Okay, but there wasn't it's going to, the total project is going to cost this amount, because obviously we're getting this change order right now. So, but the work's already been done, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. The previous change orders were, there was this change order in particular, the one that's for $269,000 that got changed to roughly $37,000. That is basically work that has already been done. It was paperwork getting caught up from the summer months.
Okay. So what percent over the original budget are we at with all these change orders?
I can't attest to that, but I can tell you now, before this change order number 6 is approved, we are currently at $617,065.55 for the constructed cost. So over the projected, the base contract cost was $7,069,115. So the project has, for construction-wise, it got added, $617,000 was added to the project due to what we found out in the field.
Okay, so we're about 10% over.
Yeah.
Okay.
Councilor Fitzgibbons?
Yeah, this is a good opportunity to kind of review these types of projects, because it's kind of, for all of us, the first time we walked it through, and you've given some basic numbers. It's basically a little over $7 million for actual construction services.
That's for the construction of the project, yep.
That was
not
the bid,
including-
that was what the low bid parties came in.
Yep, for construction, not design or inspection.
And the CNS design and inspection services are a little over $1 million.
Correct.
So the total project was projected at a little over $8 million. We'll call it $8 million, 8.1. We received $4.8 million in grants, roughly.
Yep.
So our net costs were $3.2 million for the construction. There was additional $800,000 work ultimately as you kind of put this out into the future. You're at 6 or 7 right now. That'll mature out to about 8, probably. That's
Yes.
what I've been indicated.
Yes, yep.
So
On
the
the high
total
side.
project is $8.9 million.
Correct.
And so the net cost to the city is about $4 million based upon the grants. Currently, we borrowed liquidity to pay for this by using a bond anticipation note, a note that borrows short-term as we anticipate bonding, right?
Yep.
So we will ultimately place the debt at about $4 million for this particular project. Does that seem roughly correct, right?
Yeah, yep, that seems roughly
So
correct.
this will help us kind of better understand how this kind of develops. But the reason I go there is that then becomes added to our non-exempt debt. And non-exempt debt or bond debt, it basically speaks to debt that is not paid by fees, but it's just general debt that we pay out of taxes. So our non-exempt debt by the project, it grew by $4 million. With that growth, starting in 2022, December 31st of 2022, our non-exempt debt for the city of Oswego was $7 million. At the end of 2025, our non-exempt debt is $40 million. That's 3 years. So with that, I just use this as an example of how this happens, because we've just added $4 million by way of this project to non-exempt debt. That I think that this current council is in a position to look at the charter and the obligations of reporting of the city chamberlain's office to us on a monthly basis of the adequate of all the accounts, including unallocated fund balances, on a monthly basis. That obligation exists by way of charter. So I just bring it up to my fellow councilors that this is something we're going to, if it hasn't happened in the past, it will happen here forward, just for these reasons. We need to be accountable for what these balances are. Because we walked through one project that added $4 million to non-exempt debt. Needed project, we respect the engineers that did the work, and we respect the city engineer that supervises that, but we also need to be accountable for the taxpayer's dollar. So I just kind of wanted to walk that through. It was a good opportunity to do that. And the charter is very clear as to the obligations of the Chamberlain to the council.
Councilor Thompson?
So I'll ask you, Councilor Fitzgibbons. Do you know how much is in the fund balance?
I
where
don't.
This is coming out? Okay. So,
You could ask the committee chairman, who was last year's council president, what our balance was.
well, so right now, we don't know if we even have enough in the balance to
I'm sure there's something
cut the
there.
check. I'm sure there is, but we don't have that
No.
information. Okay, I just want to double check. Thank you.
Councilor Meyer?
I know that they're coming back in the spring to do where the lane seams, and I've gotten some complaints from residency, and so that's my ward, about the manhole issues. I mean, they'll eat up your car. But, so in the spring, when you come back, is that inclusive in the total project, or is that another change order? Are we getting charged for that, or?
I'm going to let CNS
And what,
answer that
what
question.
is the plan for the lane seams to equal those out?
So there are a number of things that we can do, and a lot of them are dictated by the New York State DOT spec, which we're using on this project. But what I wanted to let the councilors know is that one of the reasons for this additional cost is having Reifenberg, our contractor, come back and correct, which was essentially a rush job to get the project paved before the snow really started falling. So when you talk about things like manhole covers that are too low, that's on Reifenberg to come back and correct because they didn't do them at the time that they paved. When you talk about seams, if those are out of tolerance, they have to correct those. And I am aware that the south end of the project is a little bumpy, so one of the things that CNS will be doing before the contractor gets back out there is to get out there with a straight edge, 16-foot straight edge, and see if anything additional is out of tolerance. If it's out of tolerance, the contractor comes back and fixes that on their own dollar.
Okay.
Counselor Thompson?
So you mentioned it was like a rush job, and so we're paying for them to come back and to fix it?
You're not paying for any of the corrections that are out of tolerance, no.
Out of tolerance. So there should be like a quality thing, right? So if they rush and it doesn't look great up to our standards, hopefully we have some standards here, are we paying for those changes if we say, hey, we want the top coat repaved?
If the top course is within tolerance, and by within tolerance, I mean a 1/4 inch over 16 feet, either longitudinally or transversely on the roadway, that gets fixed by them. If there's anything that is less than that, if the city wants that fixed, that we unfortunately would have to pay Reifenberg for. But this also includes, what I didn't mention was drainage structures. If those aren't up to tolerance, those get either reset or the paving redone around them so we can correct drainage, if there is drainage that needs to get corrected.
Are they covering the cost of restriping the pavement, the lines on the road?
So the lines that were done out there were temporary. The answer is the ones that have to be redone will be covered.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
More questions or comments? Can I get a motion, please? Counselor Meyer, Counselor Lautensack.
Counselor Plunkett?
Yes.
Counselor Meyer?
Yes.
Counselor Fitzgibbons?
Yes.
Counselor Lautensack?
Yes.
Counselor Ashline?
Yes.
Item 2 under authorization. The engineering office requests authorization for the mayor to sign change order number 6 in the amount of $269,573.40 with Reifenberg Construction Incorporated for adjusting quantities to as-built conditions relating to the West First Street, New York State 48 Safety Improvements Project. Wes?
So this is the change order that got changed to $37,127.24. You guys got any questions regarding why it was changed?
That was
Counselor
my
Thompson?
question.
All right, I'm gonna
Defer?
bring that over to CNS. Thanks.
Absolutely. Can everybody hear me okay now? How about now?
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I had throat surgery, so it's tough to modulate my voice any higher than it is. So when I saw that, what was frankly a very large figure, and one realized and then heard that the council didn't like it, I asked our people to go back and take a look at what that change order entailed. And with that, there were some contingencies in that needed to come out. And honestly, there was a rather large mistake in there. Essentially, throughout the project, we had 2 buckets of funding that we were trying to track, one the water line and the other the roadway. Someone inadvertently put something in the water line that should have been in the roadway, which essentially doubled what some of the impacts on it. Once we realized that, we took it out. Then I also asked my folks to go back and take a look at what the real final numbers were going to be. So we actually stripped out some additional things in there, took back things we knew we didn't need to pay for, and that got us down to the $37,000.
Counselor Lautensack.
Have we reviewed all of the bills if there was this big of a mistake?
So this was just the change order. The actual invoices to the contractor, we've been going through those with a fine-tooth comb. One of the reasons and I'm not proud to say it, we were rushing to get this out to you for the deadline. That's one of the reasons why this mistake happened. So no, there's no other mistakes in the project like that.
Counselor Thompson.
What deadline are we talking about?
As far as,
You mentioned that you were rushing to get it out for the deadline.
well, we wanted to make sure that we had something for this committee.
Oh, for this committee?
Yes. That's the deadline that I was talking about.
You made it.
Yeah, I made it, but I made it wrong, so I apologize for that.
Counselor Lautensack.
I understand in big projects like this, there's a huge potential creep, right? Is there a margin that we can say, like, you have to come back going forward so we don't run into something like this again? Like your creep is about 3% or something like that, and then if it goes over 10, you're coming back to us to get anything approved.
I mean, honestly, the 10% value is pretty fair.
Okay. For a project like this?
Yes.
Okay.
Any other questions or comments? Can I get a motion, please? Counselor Lautensack, Counselor Ashline.
Counselor Plunkett?
Yes.
Counselor Meyer?
Yes.
Counselor Fitzgibbons?
Yes.
Counselor Lautensack?
Yes.
Counselor Ashline?
Yes.
Item 3 under authorization. The engineering office requests that the Common Council approve the declaration of the lead pipe water service replacement project as a Type 2 action under the New York State CEQA Act.
So this is a project that EFC is funding, Environmental Facilities Corporation, where we're going to get funding to replace lead pipe services. And we just wanted to get ahead of it so we didn't slow up construction. There's a exemption, if you will, in the seeker that allows, if you're replacing utility in kind, that you don't need to go through a full environmental assessment. So that's what this resolution is for.
Any questions for the city engineer? Could I get a motion, please? Counselor Lautensack, Counselor Fitzgibbons.
Counselor Plunkett?
Yes.
Counselor Meyer?
Yes.
Counselor Fitzgibbons?
Yes.
Counselor Lautensack?
Yes.
Counselor Ashline?
Yes.
Item 4 under authorization. The engineering office requests that the Common Council approve the declaration of the operable Unit 1 soil cover rehabilitation and restoration project as a Type 2 action under the New York State CEQA Act.
So this was a remediation, environmental remediation that took place years back, and the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation keeps track of this remediation, and it's city-owned property now that used to be Oswego Castings. And they came in and were concerned about, there was a cover placed over some contaminated material. And we also used that space for some storage of materials through DPW, and they were concerned that there were some grade issues where there were some depressions and water was collecting. So they came back and said, we want you to regrade the top of that cap. So that is going to be undertaken this spring, and we're scheduled to do that with our DPW forces. And this again is to try to get ahead of that activity so we don't slow that project up. And Seeker has an exemption for this as well, that if you're under consent order, which we are from the state DEC in this case, that you don't have to go through a full environmental assessment. So it's just to get on record. It's just good process to have this in the file. So if anybody comes back, we can say, look, we explored the seeker, we went to the council, and handled it as a matter of public policy.
Great. Councilor Fitzgibbons?
There's several buildings there. There's the main, very large Oswego Castings building, the legacy building. Then I think the city was using buildings to the east as well, which are newer. Which particular buildings is affected by this? Is it the main casting building?
And this was the site outside of the building.
Okay.
But west, the location.
Yeah, the location,
Yep,
It's behind the older main building towards the lake.
okay.
The big warehouse, and you got a big concrete.
Yep.
That behind that, that's actually a cap. Underneath all that is very contaminated soil that the EPA and the DEC capped with concrete. And then beyond that cap is a filter zone. That's what's getting regraded because it can't have any standing water.
Right, okay. Okay, just curious.
Yeah, no.
Yep.
Any other questions for the city engineer? Now, can I get a motion, please? Counselor Lautensack, Counselor Meyer.
Counselor Plunkett?
Yes.
Counselor Meyer?
Yes.
Counselor Fitzgibbons?
Yes.
Counselor Lautensack?
Yes.
Counselor Ashline?
Yes.
Thank you very much. Item 5 under authorization. Code Enforcement Director Michael Clary II requests authorization for the city chamberlain to complete a budget amendment in the amount of $18,336 to the Code Enforcement Equipment account to cover the cost difference for the purchase of a new vehicle. Mr. Clary?
Good evening, councilors. Pretty simple. One of our vehicles was in a motor vehicle accident at no fault of the city employee. We got $14,215 back from insurance, and the $18,336 is going to be the difference to purchase the new vehicle.
Questions? Counselor Thompson?
First, thank you for answering all my questions via email. Definitely
Sure
appreciate
thing.
that.
Sorry, it took me a minute. Just I was out of the office.
Unfortunately, I couldn't answer or ask you a few more questions via email due to time, but, so you mentioned that you have 4 vehicles normally. Are any of those take-home vehicles?
Mine is. I
Just
I
yours?
usually don't take it home, but if I need it, it'll go home with me.
Could you describe like the need for 4 versus having just 3 vehicles for the codes department?
We're all 4 of us are on the road at different times.
Okay.
You typically won't see us together unless we need to go together on an inspection, or it's a large inspection, but they're always on the road, somewhere different all the time.
Does the vehicle have any special equipment specific to the code office?
No, they're pretty straightforward. We get them with the Ford Mavericks. They have the spray and bed liner and the rugged floor liners to save the vehicle, you know.
Thanks. So I feel that the city has a lot of vehicles, so I'm just throwing it out there. I'm wondering if maybe there's opportunity to maybe share vehicles in the future, something that we might be able to look at. For instance, I know IT recently got approved for a Maverick truck as well, so there might be opportunities for that because they're probably not out on the road all the time.
Sure.
So something to think about as possibly a cost savings going forward, but thank you for answering the questions.
Sure thing.
Any other questions or comments? Could I get a motion, please? Counselor Lautensack? Counselor Ashline?
Counselor Plunkett?
Yes.
Counselor Meyer?
Yes.
Counselor Fitzgibbons?
Yes.
Counselor Lautensack?
Yes.
Counselor Ashline?
Yes.
Thanks, Mike. Item number 6 under authorization. Mayor Robert Corradino requests authorization for the Common Council to adjust the metered and flat rate sewer rates. Mr. Mayor?
Thank you.
Thanks, Rob. John? Oh.
Okay, I have some prepared remarks. Hopefully everyone can hear me.
Yes.
Thank you for the opportunity to address item number 6 on the Administrative Services agenda this evening, which concerns a proposal for the Common Council to adjust sewer rates. Before discussing the specifics, I think it would be helpful to briefly look back at how we typically approach fee-related decisions in the city government. As you know, the authority to set fees rests solely with the Common Council, not with the mayor. Whether we are talking about animal control fees, road closure permits, trash hauler licenses, recreational fees for ice skating and the pool, those decisions are yours. The mayor does not have a vote on any of those. However, the mayor is very much part of the process. Let me use last year's animal control fee adjustments as an example. Some of you may have been here last year when we voted on that. I know Councilor Meyer was here. One of my responsibilities is to continually evaluate how we can improve operational efficiency, reduce costs, and increase revenues. That work happens year-round, but it becomes especially focused when department heads and I prepare the mayor's budget. That usually happens starting in May, and it goes to August, and then the council gets it in the mid-August. In the case of the animal control shelter, the director raised concerns during that time that fees had not been updated in several years and should be adjusted. After reviewing comparable fees at other shelters, we developed a recommended pricing structure. That information was presented to the council last year for review. They agreed that the adjustments were justified and approved them. Item number 6 before you tonight has followed a similar path. City staff, auditors, and administrations going back to Mayor Gillen in 2015 have been closely watching both sewer and water funds. In fact, as you can see on the handout that I gave you a minute ago, and on the screen, which I thought the public would like to see, the council adjusted rates as needed over those years. The previous council and mayor recognized tonight's issue, but we also knew that the Sewer Enterprise Fund had a healthy balance, giving us time to evaluate options carefully. As you can see, water and sewer rates combined have not changed since September of 2023. However, the time has come for the council to take a look at sewer rates once again. Working with City Hall personnel, wastewater staff, our purchasing agent, we offer the following proposal. A $20 per quarter increase equivalent to $6.67 per month for both flat rate and metered sewer customers. It is worth noting that sewer rates have been reduced several times by the council since 2019, as you can see on the handout that I gave you, and as you can see here on the monitor. And this was because work required by the consent decree was being completed, and also by the fact that we obtained millions of dollars in grant funding. But since then, operational costs have gone up, as everything else has. Tonight's recommendation reflects the professional judgment of city personnel who monitor the system's financial and operating needs. As has always been the case, it is now the council's opportunity to determine whether this proposal is appropriate and necessary. My role and the role of our city staff is to provide you with accurate information, context, and a suggested path forward. We have done that as of just now. The decisions to act or not rest with you. At this time, I did want to offer the Dan Raymer from our wastewater. Councilor Meyer called me last week after taking a tour of the facility on the west side and had a wonderful conversation and meeting with 2 individuals there. Dan was one of them. And the suggestion that Councilor Meyer gave me was it would be helpful for all of you to hear what Dan had to tell Councilor Meyer. At this time, I'd like to invite him up here to give him his take on all this. Because, as I said, Councilor Meyer thought it was very beneficial for everybody here. I don't know if you gave your full report to the other councilors, but if not, this would be probably a good point to...
I couldn't remember it all.
So, Dan, the floor is yours.
Good evening. When we're doing our jobs right at the wastewater plant, you guys generally don't know who we are. We kind of like it that way, so. But in this case, one of the things that I offer is I have been involved in budgeting at wastewater plants since the early 90s. And one rule of thumb that I have watched many councils and governing boards wrestle with is rate increases. The one thing you usually don't see is the cost of what we do getting cheaper. One of the things I always like to remind people, most of what we do is done by people. Their costs have gone up, health insurance, retirement. You guys know all this. It's To be a public employee, financial manager is expensive these days. For basic operators, it costs us a lot of money to train them, retain them, which you guys have done a really good job over the past few years, giving these guys a decent salary. They're kind of now at the point where they're not the lowest paid operators in central New York, which is always a good thing. That helps with retainage. The bigger thing that's going on right now is our factories, as I call them, that can never close down, are highly regulated, and we don't control the input. More than half the water that we treat on an annual basis comes from seepage. This is a wet area. You know, our groundwater is high, we've got a river, we've got a lake. We have water running through our communities all the time. Not all of it goes to the storm system. So the cost of what we do isn't just what we sell at the tap. It also includes the material that goes into that water, all the garbage that goes in that water, and our equipment is expensive. Our equipment runs 24/7 and gets abused by the nature of what we do. So redundancy, specialization, all those things are incredibly expensive. As you see, when the bonds come through and the projects come through, a small project at a wastewater plant is millions of dollars. Our recent upgrade of the East Side treatment plant for 2 different projects, somewhere around $11.5 million. A lot of it was grant, 0 interest loans, so the cost burden is as cheap as we can make it, but it isn't going down. That's usually the rule. Rate cuts, for me, are always a problem because now, the situation you're in now, you got a pretty good gap between revenue and expenditures. Now you go back to the public with your hand back out and you have to explain yourselves, and it gets complicated. Rate reductions lend to this yo-yo effect that I think is dangerous when you're talking about a publicly owned utility. The community owns these facilities, all the pipes in the ground, all the treatment equipment, all the personnel, they work for the public. And you can't have economic development or any other real economic activities if you don't have high-functioning wastewater treatment plants. Advanced civilization costs money. Wastewater is one of those important advanced civilization tools that we must take care of. And what I like to see instead of the yo-yo is when you notice expenditures and revenue and expenses are pretty close, or maybe you're building a little bit of a fund balance, you start to designate that fund balance for emergencies, for engineering fees, for all the things that don't actually put a piece of equipment in the plant. And that absorbs the shock so the community doesn't have to. Because I know the position you're in is always the hardest one. And so those are my philosophies. I'm not a big rate cut fan unless you all of a sudden have a Micron that comes to town and is throwing $500 million at the wastewater system. You know, that doesn't happen very often in central New York. We usually see it go the other way. I spent 4 years at Onondaga County in the early 90s doing nothing but industrial pretreatment, and most of what I did was watch Carrier close, building by building. You know, thousands of people left Thompson Road and Carrier Circle. You know, these are the opportunities that we don't want to see happen because we don't have adequate wastewater treatment and we can't fund it because we've cut the rates to the bone. And that's generally the way I try and help you folks think about this. You know, again, we're a factory that can never close down. We can't do 2-week shutdowns to do projects. So all our projects are expensive because we have to stay running. You know, we don't get that break. The state doesn't give us that break. EPA doesn't give us that break. They're the other way. And they keep ratcheting that part of our business down tighter and tighter. So that's what I have to offer today. More than willing to take questions about any specifics of what we're doing down there.
Counselor Fitzgibbons?
Thank you very much for what goes on at the plant and the people that do it. You know, we have all been in the plant. We know the professionalism of the partners that the city is working with. When you look at the budget, it looks like between salary and benefits, that represents approaching 70% of the operating budget of the plant. A highly inflationary number that doesn't go down. You know, AI is not going to run that plant. And so there might be efficiencies. And what we saw in previous councils is 3 successive rate cuts. So the councils before us cut that 3 times. And so what we want to do, what I think collectively I'd like to do, is be part of a process that institutionalizes, just as you're saying, a process of review and thoughtful projection into the future of something that doesn't react to a crisis or a problem, but becomes a conversation of our constituents, of the essential services you supply to the community, and the fact that it should be based upon user fees. So clearly, I think your experience will help us try to craft a policy instead of a reaction to a problem. I think the yo-yo comes when you cut it 3 times and then cry that you don't have enough money. That's unfair to this council, and it's unfair to constituents. So I think that we would very much we'd like to be part of a process that builds a plan and create an opportunity into the future that we don't have that yo-yo effect. I think you see the rates, 2021, they were cut. They were cut. And that then started a very obvious trend towards inadequacy. And I think none of us want to be part of an increased cost to constituents that we know the burden that they're under. And we know what this news is. But we need to be adequate in our planning and forthright with our information. There were some very thoughtful questions that came from this council that we shared. I think you might have seen some of them. Councilor Kennedy had some very thoughtful comments about analyzing the sewer rates, as did Councilor Thompson. So I think this is a highly engaged group looking for an outcome that can be fair and equitable to the constituents, but also thoughtful into the future. So I would like to have us develop that plan moving forward.
Councilor Meyer?
In several of the resolutions, after a little research, they made reference to grants. Were those grants exclusively for sewer and water? And if they were, if the grants are still available, would those grants be able to be accredited to our Sewer and Water Enterprise Fund today?
I mean, we look for grants with every project. The funding cycle is complicated through the regulatory process, as well as what's called the Environmental Finance Corporation, which has a rotating fund as well as grant money to help with water and sewer projects. So you have to get your project planned, you have to get it on what they call the intended use plan, and then there has to be money in the coffers from the federal and state governments to divvy up. A few years ago, we did well. We got, I think, a $7 million grant for the improvements we're planning right now for the West Side wastewater plant. We're upgrading 50-year-old motor control centers where the electrical comes in and then is distributed throughout the plant. We have dinosaurs that can't be maintained. That's getting replaced. It's not like and we're replacing our aeration system, which is the key tool for treating most of the waste that comes into the plant. And a lot of other little projects like that. That's going to become a project, hopefully, that goes out to bid later this year During the permitting process for the west side, we got thrown a curveball by DEC. In the middle of this upgrade that they've known about, they want us to do a capacity study. So we have to manage that into how we plan this project now. The west side wastewater plant during wet weather events is maxed out. It has no room hydraulically to grow, and barely handles what comes to it. And that's after we spent a ton of money doing sewer separation. There are still issues that we have on that west side that Jeff was looking at very carefully before he left, and that we will continue to look at very carefully to find an economics affordable solution that gives us capacity, because we all know, if anything, you know, besides the growth in Scriba, the other growth sector available for the city is the town of Oswego and the campus life that is supported over there. So I think, you know, we need to position the West Side plant to be part of that potential economic solution going forward, to allow subdivisions, to allow whatever growth can occur over there. Right now, I think if you put in a subdivision request to DEC for sewer capacity, they're going to raise a lot of eyebrows, and the engineering reports are going to have to be very specific on how we would deal with that additional flow. So that's where we're at with the West Side plant. The East Side is a little different. It was built with Hammermill in mind all those years ago, so hydraulically, I've got some capacity. The problems over there are we've got some really old concrete that we're trying to keep alive. You know, we got 50-year-old concrete over there. We've been putting a lot of money into keeping it together, and as well as updating the equipment over there as well. We did the electrical upgrade, we did some of the aeration upgrades, so we've done some of the bigger, expensive projects, but it's an old house. There'll be more, you know, to keep it from falling down, basically.
So on the west side figure, you know, we've heard several figures, 10, 15, 20 million to either put tanks in or to expand the facility. So if we do all that, I mean, are grants going to be available for us to do that, or is that all going to come out of the city coffer?
We're going to have to see how that unfolds over the next year, probably. We'll be in a year from now, we'll be able to better to answer that question. We don't even have a budget. We haven't done the capacity study. The project that is in progress now started with a grant application back during COVID, probably 2021, we started this project. We're now at 90% design, but we have to hold back for a few months to see if we can add pieces of the capacity study improvements into this project if necessary, and maybe go after more grant money. We always are trying to get grant money and zero interest loans for every one of these projects. We do get a lot of zero interest loans through the EFC, which makes it, you know, some of these project no-brainers. You're not really paying that debt service.
So do they have zero payback grants where, you know, it's not a matching grant, it's a grant we get from either the state or the feds that 2 million, 3 million, whatever it is, and they say, you know, here's your money, you guys don't have to match it, you don't have to pay it back. So are we constantly looking for those?
Yeah, every project.
Okay.
Especially the consulting engineers are really good at navigating that world, because there's lots of classifications for grants, but the key part of it is you have to be on this New York State list called the intended use plan. So your project has to be kind of scoped and scored and started, and you plug it onto this list, and then it gets scored, and if you're above a certain line, you get access to grant money. And so every year, the projects are being thrown into that cement mixer, if you will, and hopefully you come out first, close to the top of the list. Having consent orders helps your score, little things like that. So it's a very interesting process, one I'm actually not very conversant about. It's very confusing. You let the engineering firms deal with it.
Any other questions? Counselor Kennedy?
So this isn't a question for you. It's just I have a statement that I wanna read about regarding questions that were sent in an email amongst the counselors and the mayor and other parties. So I want to ground this discussion in audited facts and in long-term fiscal stewardship. The city's audited financial statements show that our long-term picture is shaped not only by annual spending decisions, but also by structural obligation and capital financing practices. First, the 2024 audited statements report that the city government activities show a significant unrestricted deficit net position, and the notes state that this is primarily driven by the requirement to record other post-employment benefits liabilities without a requirement or mechanism to fund them. In the same audit, the city's total OPEB requirement or mechanism to fund them. In the same audit, the city's total OPEB liability is reported at $123,656,414, and the city contributes on a, quote, pay-as-you-go, unquote, basis. That matters because structured costs and long-term liabilities influence borrowing capacity, planning discipline, and our ability to maintain infrastructure without recurring shocks. Second, the audit also documents that some funds, such as capital projects and special grant activity, can show deficits at year-end due to timing, because projects may use short-term financing until permanent bonding or grant revenues are realized. This is exactly why recurring, predictable revenue streams are not optional if we want to reduce volatility and avoid scrambling each year. Third, with respect to water specifically, the 2024 audited schedules show water-related departmental income and the water fund's financial activity, including debt service components and the resulting fund balance. Since we have audited reportable numbers, I believe it is reasonable and responsible for the administration to clearly explain in plain language how the proposed water and sewer rate changes connect to 1, actual cost drivers, 2, debt service and capital planning, and 3, a long-term sustainability strategy that is not built on repeated one-time patches. Finally, I want to be clear about grant funding. Grants are an important tool, but they come with timing, compliance, and administrative burden. Even the single audit materials across years show that reporting and compliance framework behind federal awards, and that framework can be stressed when there is turnover or delayed reporting. A stable rate structure and predictable local revenue reduce risk and reduce the need to constantly rely on outside funding to, quote, relieve burden, unquote, in the short term, only to face a larger burden later. So tonight, I'm asking for clarity and a plan, not just whether rates change, but why, how much, and for what purpose, and what outcomes residents should expect over a multi-year horizon. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Seeing Councilor Thompson?
I'll make a comment. So I'm looking at the sheet that the mayor provided to us. Thank you, by the way. Back in May of 2024, we reduced the sewer metered rate by $15 and raised the water rate by 15. I believe at the time, and I'm going back based on memory, it was mentioned that the sewer rate fund was healthy. So my concern is, obviously they did not get it right back then. So whoever did the data analysis back then didn't calculate or plan correctly for the future. So my concern is whatever ends up being decided with these resolutions, we need to make sure that we're taking in factors like wages, salaries, maintenance correctly, so that way we don't deplete these fund balances. So I do suggest that if you guys think that we need more time to go through the data, because we got a lot of data this past week, we should take that time. Thank you.
there any other questions or comments?
The only comment I'd say is, what we want to do is make sure that we have a process in place that we're not revisiting this without a plan. And I think that's what the basis of what you're saying and your motion or your proposed thoughts.
Yes.
Counselor Meyer?
I think this is a lot of information to digest. We're talking, the information I gave out was over a 25-year span. It was 14 different resolutions with raises, reductions, grants, funding. And this is obviously a fairly new council. And we got put in this position. Obviously, we're here. But I think that I think that a little extra time would be beneficial, I think, for us to examine what went on and make sure that it doesn't happen again. I think we owe that to the people in the city of Oswego. Thank you.
Is there any other questions or comments?
Just food for thought, gentlemen and lady. Is it a possibility to? Yeah, sorry. Brandon Walker, 5th Ward. I just, food for thought, what I was thinking just now. Is it a possibility to have business and industry at a higher rate and residential the same? I don't know if that's a thing that can be looked at or done. Businesses and heavy industry, you can incur the cost better. Residents can maybe leave it flat. Maybe Mr. Mayor has an idea on that.
If you look right there at that second line item, the Common Council in 2016 created a commercial rate for the large users.
Okay.
So it was established.
Okay.
Sorry.
No, you're good. Can't read from back there, we have bad eyesight, but maybe raise the rates on commercial. Go from there, food for thought. That's just my take initially.
Thank you, Brandon.
Just to ask, are there guidelines out there for municipalities that have established policies to avoid this problem? Do they have a mechanism in place, the best practices of municipalities that do this well?
NICOM, I think, is published stuff to help, but they have schools for you folks on some of these topics through the New York Council of Mayors.
Yeah.
And I know that a lot of the folks I've worked with over the past have taken advantage of that and gone to these classes and gotten a lot out of it because it is kind of obtuse financing. It's big numbers. It requires a lot of planning by a lot of different folks. So the projects, by the time you see them, have already spent years in development. So there are guidelines.
Yeah.
There are rate study books out there. I've been through a few of those. Usually you hire a consultant to help you do the rate study. That's always an option. Many of the local consultants have participated in that type of review, and usually that's, kind of what it takes.
Yeah.
There's kind of engineer, accountant guys out there that understand these projects and do a pretty good job helping, folks like you understand the decisions you're asking.
Well, just to add to that, I know that Councilor Myers and Councilor Lautensack and I took a Sunday to spend the day with NICOM's newly elected officials event to kind of get an overview of all of their services. The city of Oswego is a member of NICOM. And so, knowing that there's that narrow area of guidance for establishing policy for rate establishment in this area might exist, would seem as though we would want to know that to avoid the foibles of what this can lead you towards, and we can see what it does. 3 cuts inadequately funding the account led us here. So we don't want to be here. We don't want to have the conversation with the community that rates are going up. But the reality is we need to have a policy.
Councilor Thompson?
So I'm listening to my fellow counselors, And it sounds like everyone is saying we need more time to get a policy in place. So I like to just suggest that maybe we should table this until the next committee meeting to give everyone more time to absorb the numbers, look at the data, try to work on a long-term plan that makes sense. Rushing this through doesn't make sense. I do appreciate the 2 weeks, Mayor, but obviously there's a lot behind it. So that's just my suggestion to the committee, but it's up to you guys.
Councilor Meyer?
I don't think anyone is either opposed or unopposed at this point. I just think we're all looking for as much information as we can grab. And I would have to agree with Councilor Thompson right now to go ahead with any kind of decision, I think is premature on our part. Looking at the, again, finding out that NICOM now has something that we could go to and get suggestions. And again, as Councilor Fitzgibbon said, we don't want to be in this position again. You know, this should be a one and done for us. And if we're going to do it, let's do it right the first time.
Yep.
And not have to come back and address this issue over and over again.
The yo-yo.
Yep.
But I feel that, I don't feel that any of us are opposed or unopposed at this point. I just think that, you know, we're all looking for more time, and I think that's a healthy idea.
Can I
Mayor?
say a couple words?
Of course.
Maybe I'm taking this a little too personally because I was on the council and I've been in city government for 11 years, but I take exception to Councilor Fitzgibbon's remarks that it sounds like you're painting a picture, and forgive me for saying this, you're painting a picture of incompetence over the past 11 years. As I described earlier, when the 2015 council sat here and they realized that they had approximately, now this was the engineering study, approximately an $88 million project to separate all the sewer pipes. They ran the numbers and they decided that, and you could see, they raised it to $275 total water and sewer on the premise that it was going to be over an $80 million project. And as it turned out, we did it in less time and we did it under $60 million. And that didn't happen by luck, all right? Mayor Barlow and the council worked hand in hand to make sure that the project moved forward, that it was efficient, and we used every opportunity to save money. For example, we used CHIPS money to patch the roads after that. That's an example of saving a few $100,000 in this project. We went out, one of the things that the 2015 council didn't know at the time, they were told that they could not look for any grant funding to prevent, or I should say fix the consent decree issues. Well, Mayor Barlow got into office in January of 2016, and the first thing he did was pick up the phone and call the state and federal representatives to make sure that that was accurate. What he found out was it was not accurate. And the previous council raised the rates based on the fact that they couldn't get any funding, any grant funding, as you were talking to Dan about, the grant funding. Once he made that call, and we did what Dan mentioned, we went out and looked for every single penny that was available. And that is why it cost less than $60 million, because of all that work. Now, that does explain why the fund ended up being rather large. It was very healthy, somewhere around $10 million. It was because that 2015 council didn't take into account all the savings and that it was going to cost less. So the plan was, and as I said, I'm taking exception to the fact that you're making it sound like the previous council and the previous mayors, and there were 3 mayors involved in this, all right? Gillen, Barlow, and myself. You're making it sound like we didn't know what the hell we were doing. We didn't make these decisions in a bubble. You know, we talked to advisors, we talked to the auditors, we talked to the engineers, we talked to Mike Riley in our office, who keeps track of our numbers. And what we did was we made the concerted effort and decision, which is what you're supposed to be doing in these chairs. We made the decision that the best way to reduce that $10 million was to reduce rates. And you mentioned, Councilor Thompson, that we reduced rates on the sewer, and what we did was readjust rates from 23 to 24. We needed some funding in the water fund, so we rebalanced it based on the numbers that we were given. So again, What we did, I feel, was the proper way. We had over $10 million in the fund. It was way too much because of the reasons I just explained. And the best way that that council and those mayors thought it was best to address that was to reduce rates. You can argue all night if you want to on whether that was the best decision, but that was the decision that was made, was to reduce the rates. And now, because of operational costs, you heard Dan talk about all the increased costs. Right now, I'm negotiating a new contract with the wastewater people. ASME is the union. And they're all probably going to get raises once we resolve this. The point is that there's always going to be operational costs, and I know Dan pointed out quite a few of them. But this council, I understand what you want to do, and you have the power to do it. But I just want to make sure that you understand that the previous councils and the previous mayors weren't not asleep during this whole process. There was a concerted effort to look at all these numbers, to make informed decisions, and to do what's best for the city of Oswego and the residents. Thank you.
Councilor Kennedy?
Thank you, Mayor. I wanted to just bring back to the point that one of the last committee meetings in December from the previous council was a statement by the mayor that it said something along the lines of that he wanted to get this done with the current council because the new incoming council didn't know what they were going to be doing. And so this is why we are asking for more time, so we can get reacquainted with the numbers and to know better, have better understanding of what we are going to be making a plan on for our residents of the city. We were elected as officials for the residents that we represent, and we want to make the best informed decision. Like Councilor Meyer had said previously, none of us are really opposed or unopposed to this increase. It's just that we, as new councilors, 6 of the 7 of us, are brand new to this role. We are 6 weeks in, and we just need more information, more time, not being stonewalled into not getting the information that we need in order to make the best informed decision for the residents that we all serve. So I think that I agree with Councilor Thompson and Councilor Meyer that tabling this would be in the best interest for us to make the best informed decision for the people that we serve in the city of Oswego. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments from the committee? Can I get a motion, please?
Motion to
And what are we
table
moving?
it?
We're going to make a motion, and if not, if that's what Councilor Kennedy has in mind, I need a motion to table if nobody wants to make a motion for the authorization as it stands.
I'll make a motion to table it.
1 second.
Councilor Lawton Sack, Councilor Meyer.
Councilor Plunkett?
Yes.
Councilor Meyer?
Yes.
Councilor Fitzgibbons?
Yes.
Councilor Lautensack?
Yes.
Councilor Ashline?
Yes.
Item 7 under authorization. Mayor Robert Corradino requests authorization for the Common Council to amend the current sewer use agreement with the town of Oswego.
Good evening, councilors.
Mr. City Attorney.
Mr. Chairman. I guess I open the meeting and I'll close the meeting. I'm actually standing before you as representative of the town of Oswego, asking for your consideration of this matter. And again, by way of background and noting that this is the first time I'm appearing out of my role as city attorney at this podium. This original contract was negotiated between the city and the town multiple years ago. The most recent version back in 2022 that was negotiated by a team from the city of Oswego and a team for the town of Oswego. I did not negotiate this contract on behalf of the city of Oswego. That having been said, the request tonight is to extend the term of the current agreement, which is a 5-year term. Probably best to explain what this is not. This is not a request to change the fee structure, the fees themselves, or the capacity issue that Dan was talking about. The capacity is the capacity at this point in time. That agreement was contemplated on certain projects in the town of Oswego being incorporated into the agreement, and the rate was set that way. The reason for the request tonight is to match the funding that the town of Oswego is receiving from the Environmental Facilities Corporation. You're getting a little bit of an education tonight, which is good, on the EFC and some funding and bonding. So the town of Oswego is nearing permanent bond financing. It's a 30-year term. One of the requirements when there is what's called an intermunicipal agreement, which is what this agreement is between the town and the city, two municipalities agreeing on a certain thing. In this case, the city has agreed to provide the town with wastewater treatment. In exchange for that, the town has agreed to pay the city a price for that service. And that's all set by contract. Those prices are locked in. And again, the town of Oswego is not seeking a change to that pricing structure or the prices. The current contract extends for 5 years, and the capacity is, again, set. The only thing that's being requested tonight is to consider extending the agreement, the term of that agreement, from a 5-year agreement to a 30-year agreement to match the level of funding for the EFC. And why is that request being made? Well, funders do not like uncertainty, and so they want to see when there's intermunicipal agreements that those terms match the term of the funding. And in this case, it's a 30-year note that is being paid out annually by the town of Oswego. So the EFC in this case wants to know that there's always going to be a relationship between the city and the town for sewer service. They have and take no position with respect to what that's going to cost or what kind of capacity needs or wants there might be. So right now, and as it stands in the code and by contract, if the town of Oswego wanted to increase, they had a subdivision that they wanted to add a volume of users, they would have to come back to this council and seek that approval to expand the capacity. Similarly, if the city wants to increase the rates under contract, the two parties get together and negotiate that. So historically, and this is not the first agreement, this is an agreement that has been extended for many, many administrations. They have generally been negotiated in 5-year blocks. And if I had to guess, I didn't look at the exact numbers, but it's probably been a relationship of some 20 years now. It started with the Ontario Heights Sewer District, which is up, off of Bayless and that area near the college. And it's extended, and again, we're strictly talking wastewater. There's a separate water agreements, but not with the city. That's different communities. This is strictly wastewater. Since that Ontario Heights district has occurred, there was a college housing project called Lakeside Commons that was added. The Lakeshore Commercial Sewer District, which is essentially from Thompson Road to Jackham Road off of 104, and then down Fred Haynes Boulevard, just to kind of give you a general area. That's contemplated. There's also the Sleepy Hollow Sewer District, which has about 50 users, give or take. That system, their system is dead, and it's under a consent order, and there's an agreement to take that capacity, tie it into the existing infrastructure, and bring it down to the city of Oswego for treatment. So that's what's contemplated in the current agreement. There's a price per 1,000 gallons that's set. That doesn't change. The capacity doesn't change. The only thing being requested, again, is the term going from a 5-year term to a 30-year agreement. The funding is scheduled to close sometime this year. It could be as soon as April. Could get pushed back a little bit, but we're talking essentially 30 years from now, 26 to 56. I know I said a lot, I repeated myself a few times. I'm happy to take any questions.
Counselor Fitzgibbons?
On an agreement like that, the last council changed the rates for external users, so they were affected by that, right?
Not, what was presented tonight, no.
No, not tonight. The town of Oswego, they adopted or they were charged our new rates based upon the council resolution in December. Or no?
No, that's under contract. What occurred was somewhat, I would call it parity. That the town, everyone else was being brought up to the level that the town of Oswego had contracted with the city of Oswego for sewer service.
So how are they reviewed in terms of their costs? Is there, does it happen annually, every 5 years, or how do we set the rate to the town of Oswego?
Yeah, so historically, it's been roughly every 5 years, we get together and start talking about
the rate per million gallons or whatever the.
Sure.
Yeah, so it's set every 5 years. Is there any way that could be more sensitive to, as we develop our pricing scheme, to be more sensitive to the actual cost of production, I guess?
Yeah, I mean, I don't see an issue with that, and in fact.
Would this be the time to catch it?
It certainly could be. Again, I mean.
It's a new contract, right?
It's not, well, the current contract expires in '27, so we're coming up,
right,
to it, but we're not quite there yet. And that contract does contemplate an annual increase.
An annual increase. Is that percentages of increase?
Roughly 3%.
But it's probably, inflationary is probably 7 for our wages. So we're not probably even keeping up with the.
In fairness, and again, this is part of the negotiation, the town of Oswego has many of the same questions that this council has. What exactly does it cost?
Right.
To process wastewater in the city of Oswego?
It's a good question.
And it's a good question, and it's an important one, and it's consistent with the consent order.
Yeah.
Right? And the consent order, I know we touched upon it, but it does say that the enterprise fund is established and that the fees shall be adjusted so that the amount of the enterprise fund shall equal or exceed expected sewer construction, operation, and maintenance expenses over the following year. This is a year-over-year requirement.
So I don't know whether we'd want to have a contract that had simply inflationary increases.
I'm not suggesting that.
So I'm just saying, is this the time to which we can then write that terminology as it relates to how we are billing them, if it then becomes their request to extend our term?
I guess it's subject to negotiation. If you're seeking something like that by way of a reopener,
well, they're asking to reopen the term.
I'm asking to reopen the term to match the length for the financing.
And we'd like to reopen the cost to match our costs.
Oh, okay. But I'm going to want to know.
As long as the door's open, might as well go through it, right?
I'm going to want to know exactly, right down to the penny, what does it cost per 1,000 gallons?
Yeah.
Right now, and I guess I would suggest, I mean, if this is going by way of the last discussion, there is a municipal partner. I'm sensitive to the concerns and the questions that were asked. But we are running up against requirements of the state to match the funding. So everything else at this rate, I mean, we're locked into a contract. Understand that the town is asking to reopen it to address the term. What I'm suggesting is, if that could be considered, the town and the city are already locked into pricing
to 2027.
Through 27, and just so we're crystal clear on that, right now, well, it started out at $12.78 cents per thousand in 2023. It went up to $13.04 in '24, $13.30 in '25. We're currently at $13.70 per thousand this year, and next year in '27 it would go up to $14.11 per thousand.
So our agreement to rate ends in 2027.
Correct.
So extending the term, I don't think, I wouldn't have a difficulty with that. I would just want there forward from 2027 to have a responsive rate that reflects the cost of our operation. And we would want that to match up. And I think that as we get into these contracts, if we're going to ask residents to look at these in some frequency, whether it's annual or whatever we come back with as a suggestion, we should make sure that our outside users are on a similar contract timeline. It's annual or whatever to reflect, so everybody's in parity of paying the fair rate at the same period.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that approach. There is some certainty from both sides in forecasting or setting rates for a period of time.
Yeah.
I'm the first to suggest that I would caution against too far out, like a 10 or a 20-year agreement.
Yeah.
That just doesn't, even with a cost of inflation. But 5 years generally seems to be a pretty good standard. But
if we can get some predictable projections, again, in defense of by review of the last 5 years, it has moved around a lot, and our projection of the fees has moved around a lot. And I think, in fairness, we need to have a ownership of what is a projectable number into the future that we can predicate budgets, rates, and fees to outside users.
No, I completely agree with that, Counselor.
Okay.
I completely agree with it. And it really does raise it's a real paradox, wastewater improvements and economic development. If you think about it, you often say that in order to attract economic development, you need public sewer and public water. That's a leading indicator of companies that come in and they want to see, among other things, school and community and the rest. But they want to know that they've got public water and public sewer for their employees or their business.
Sure.
But that comes with a cost, right? And so that's what we are all struggling with now. What is that cost, and how do you manage that cost going forward?
We want to project equitable distribution among the users and make sure that both residents and any outside users are paying equitable portions of the service. Yep.
100%. I agree completely.
So consistent with this is if we move this forward and we adopt the reformation of the term, the expiration of the rates in 2027 opens up how we deal with that into the future still as an open item. Is that correct?
Absolutely, and I would not want to wait until 2027.
Yeah.
We
would start that conversation coincidental with everything else we're doing.
Sure.
Yeah.
Because,
Okay.
again, it's not just to the west, or to the west, you're also to the east.
Yeah.
And depending on how regional you want to become or not,
Yeah.
I mean, those are very valid, issues that you have to tackle.
Counselor Thompson?
Hi, Kevin. And just to clarify, any rate changes will come through the council for vote, correct?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, they're typically, again, historically, they've been negotiated, generally through the mayor's office and with a core group, but the mayor then makes a recommendation to the council for approval of a rate change. Doesn't exclude, the council from doing its own work or participating in some fashion, but that's historically how it's been done. But yes, to your point, it is approved by the council.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Counselor Meyer?
Kevin, if I read the resolution right, in there it said that we had the right to change rates accordingly. So even though it's locked into a contract, if we found that if we did a study and we found that we were definitely far behind, what does that do to the contract because this resolution is saying that we can raise rates. If the resolution says we can raise rates, but we're locked into a contract, is there a conflict, or how does that work?
No, I think that's a good question. There is some ability to reopen. Generally, what occurs is let's just say for the sake of argument, you agree with requesting or approving the town's request to make this a 30-year term. That 30-year term would then likely have a second section that says every 5 years or 3 or 4, whatever the number is, the town and the city will get together and negotiate new rates, right? So even though it's a 30-year term, you'll always have a reopening provision every 3, 4, 5 years to look at rates and capacity.
Okay. Yep. Thank you.
It's my point.
Any other questions or comments? Could I get a motion, please? Counselor Fitzgibbons, Counselor Lautensack.
Counselor Plunkett?
Yes.
Counselor Meyer?
Yes.
Counselor Fitzgibbons?
Yes.
Counselor Lautensack?
Yes.
Counselor Ashline?
Yes.
Does anybody have anything else? If not, could I get a motion to adjourn? Counselor Fitzgibbons, Counselor Ashline.
Counselor Plunkett?
Yes.
Counselor Meyer?
Yes.
Counselor Fitzgibbons?
Yes.
Counselor Lautensack?
Yes.
Counselor Ashline?
Yes.